Welcome back, everyone. Ready for another deep dive into the fascinating world of the English language.
Always ready to unearth some linguistic gems.
Today, we've got a real mix, from idioms to nuanced vocab, and even a dash of British slang.
Those are always fun.
Yeah, those Brits really have a way with words. But first, let's talk about something I realized I use all the time without even thinking.
Oh, let me guess.
It's seeing eye to eye. I mean, it just means agreeing, right?
Well, yeah, that's the gist of it, but there's a bit more to it. It's not just agreeing to disagree. It's like a deeper connection.
Like you're both on the same wavelength.
Exactly. It suggests a real shared understanding, almost like you're looking at things through the same lens. You know that feeling of click when you reach the same conclusion together.
Yeah, like a real meeting of the minds. So it's more than just saying, okay, fine, we'll do it your way.
Right. Seeing eye to eye implies a genuine alignment, a sense of harmony.
I like that. Harmony. It's funny how a simple phrase can hold so much meaning. Speaking of meaning, ever notice how the word nuanced is popping up everywhere these days?
It is, isn't it? I think it reflects a growing awareness of the complexities of, well, everything, really. Like we're realizing things aren't always black and white.
It's like we're going beyond the surface level and appreciating those subtle shades of meaning, right?
Exactly. It's about recognizing those layers of interpretation that make things so much more interesting. Think of it like a painting.
Ooh, okay, I'm intrigued.
A flat, two-dimensional drawing might convey the basic idea, but a painting with depth and texture, with all those subtle variations, that's where the magic happens.
It's those tiny details that really bring things to life. So nuanced isn't just about being complicated, it's about recognizing those different perspectives.
Precisely. It's saying there's more to it than meets the eye. A nuanced performance, for example, captures all those little intricacies of a character.
So it's about depth, subtlety, and recognizing that gray area.
Yes. And the origin of the word itself is quite interesting.
Oh, do tell.
It comes from the French word nuance, meaning shade or subtle difference. It's those little details that make something so much richer, you know?
It's funny how language evolves like that. Speaking of evolving, sometimes it feels like we're all just trying to catch up.
Oh, tell me about it, whether it's with work, news, even just keeping up with friends.
It's like that constant feeling of being behind and trying to reach the same level, you know?
And catch-up is so versatile. It can be about location, information, even just personal updates.
Like, I was late on a project last week and felt like I was playing catch-up the whole time.
Exactly. It's about bridging that gap, whatever it may be.
So whether you're physically behind in a race or behind on the latest gossip, it's all about reaching that same level.
And what's fascinating is how it often implies a continuous effort, wouldn't you say?
Like the goalposts keep moving, and you're always striving to close the gap.
Think about the news cycle, for instance. There's just so much information constantly bombarding us.
It's like we're perpetually trying to catch up just to stay afloat.
Exactly. But enough about us trying to catch up. How about we delve into something a little lighter? Ready for some British slang?
Always. What have we got?
Let's explore the wonderfully expressive world of rubbish.
Oh, rubbish. You know, I've always loved British slang.
Yeah.
But I'll admit, it's tripped me up a few times.
Oh. Any stories you care to share?
Once, I told a British friend their haircut was rubbish, thinking it was like saying cool or awesome.
Oh, dear. I don't think that went down too well.
You could say that. It turns out rubbish is definitely not a compliment.
Not at all. It's more like saying something is garbage or nonsense. But it's got that extra oomph, that real sense of dismissal.
So if something is just bad, you might say it's bad. But if it's truly awful, then it's rubbish.
Precisely. And you can use it for more than just physical things. A terrible movie, a flimsy argument, even a bad joke all can be branded as rubbish.
It's like that ultimate stamp of disapproval. It's funny, though. It seems like rubbish has come a long way from its original meaning. Didn't it used to refer to literal scraps and leftovers?
You're right, the term goes back to late Middle English, and it originally meant just that. Useless bits and pieces.
And now it covers pretty much anything we deem worthless or nonsensical. It really shows how language evolves over time.
It does, doesn't it?
Mm.
It's constantly adapting and taking on new shades of meaning, kind of like that word nuance we were talking about earlier.
Oh, that's a good point. I wonder, do you think that trend of valuing nuance is here to stay? Or will it eventually fade away like other buzzwords?
That's a fascinating question, I think. Well, while nuanced might be having its moment in the spotlight now, I think the idea behind it, appreciating complexity and understanding, that's here to stay.
Yeah, especially as the world keeps getting more interconnected and diverse, right?
Mhm.
We need that ability to recognize those subtle differences more than ever.
Absolutely. It's more important than ever to acknowledge that gray area, that space where things aren't always so clear-cut.
So it's not just about sounding smart, it's about having more thoughtful, more productive dialogues.
Exactly. It encourages us to move beyond those simple yes or no answers. And, it even relates back to that idea of seeing eye to eye.
Oh, how so?
Even when we don't agree with someone, striving for understanding can be incredibly powerful.
It's interesting you say that because sometimes the most productive conversations happen when we don't see eye to eye, at least not right away.
Absolutely. Disagreeing constructively can really help us refine our own thinking. We can learn from others, challenge our assumptions.
And hopefully arrive at better solutions together, even if we don't agree on every single point.
Exactly. And even if you don't end up fully agreeing, you can at least acknowledge the other person's perspective. It's about finding that common ground, wouldn't you say?
I think so. It's about recognizing that we can coexist peacefully, even with those differing viewpoints.
Well said. And this actually brings us back to catch up, in a way.
Oh, really? Tell me more.
Often, when we disagree with someone, it's because we're missing some information or context. We need to kind of catch up to their level of understanding before we can really have a meaningful conversation.
That's such a good point. It's like we're all on our own learning journeys, and sometimes those paths, they diverge.
Exactly. But by taking the time to catch up with each other, to bridge those gaps in knowledge and experience.
We can create a more connected and empathetic world.
I love that. A more connected and empathetic world. And isn't that what language is all about at its core?
It really is. I mean, think about it. We started with seeing eye to eye, and now we're talking about empathy and connection. It's amazing how these seemingly simple words and phrases,
Can lead us down such fascinating paths.
it really highlights how much power language holds, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. These words aren't just tools for expressing ourselves. They shape how we think, how we interact, how we see the world around us.
And what I find so interesting is that while seeing eye to eye might seem like the ultimate goal of any conversation,
It's not always about reaching perfect agreement, is it?
right? Sometimes those moments of disagreement, even those lighthearted jabs, like when we throw in a little rubbish for good measure,
Those can be just as enriching.
exactly. Those moments of friction, when they're handled well, can spark new ideas. They can challenge our assumptions.
And ultimately lead us to a deeper understanding of ourselves and others.
It's like that saying, iron sharpens iron. Sometimes a little bit of disagreement, a little rubbish even, can help us refine our own perspectives.
And we come out stronger on the other side. But of course, we can't forget the importance of catching up along the way.
So true. Whether it's staying informed, learning about different cultures, or simply listening to someone else's story.
That continuous process of bridging those knowledge gaps, that's what allows us to grow and connect with each other.
So, as we wrap up our deep dive today, what's the one key takeaway you want our listeners to hold on to?
Embrace the complexity of language, explore those subtle shades of meaning, and don't be afraid to challenge your own assumptions along the way.
And have fun with it, because in the end, language is about connecting with others, sharing our stories.
And making sense of this wonderful, messy world we live in.
Couldn't have said it better myself. So, until next time, happy language learning, everyone.
It really is amazing, isn't it?
It is. We started with seeing eye to eye, and now we're talking about all this, empathy and connection. It's fascinating how these little words,
They can take us to such unexpected places.
they really do. It just shows you how much power language really has, right?
Absolutely. It's not just about expressing ourselves, it's about shaping how we think, how we understand the world, even how we connect with each other.
And it's funny because while we often talk about seeing eye to eye as the goal, like reaching that perfect agreement,
Sometimes it's those moments where we don't quite see eye to eye that are the most valuable.
right, like a little healthy debate can actually be a good thing
Exactly. When it's done respectfully, of course. Those are the moments that can really spark new ideas, challenge our
and
assumptions.
help us grow. Just like those moments where we need to, catch up.
Oh, absolutely. Whether we're catching up on current events, learning about a new culture,
Or even just taking the time to really listen to someone else's perspective.
all those things can help us connect on a deeper level, become more understanding and empathetic.
So, as we wrap up this deep dive, what's the one thing you really want our listeners to take away from all of this?
Embrace the beauty of language. Don't shy away from complexity. Explore those shades of meaning, those nuances, and don't be afraid to question what you think you know.
And most importantly, have fun with it. Language is about connecting, sharing stories, making sense of this crazy world.
Well said. Until our next deep dive.